Hello, my name is Daniel Helfand, and I'm a developer advocate with Intuit. And today in this video, I'm going to go over using Argo CD, which is a continuous delivery tool for Kubernetes, with kbld. Kbld is a CLI tool that, amongst other things, can take in Kubernetes manifests as input, and then find the container image references within those Kubernetes manifests and convert those container image references from a tag to a digest format. So to show why this is useful as part of your Argo CD workflows, let's head out to my terminal and let's see what kbld can do against some local Kubernetes manifests. So let's head out to my terminal. And the first thing that you'll notice is that I have this local YAML file. And within this YAML file, I have a service defined, and then I also have a Kubernetes deployment defined. And this deployment is referencing an image that basically has a tag as its way of defining what particular version of this container image should be run when this deployment object is created on our Kubernetes cluster. So the challenge with working with this tag format is that even though we're consistently referencing this image the exact same way, it doesn't guarantee that we're always going to deploy the exact same version of this container image when this deployment is created and updated on our cluster. So the challenge with this is that we don't know exactly what is deployed and running out in our Kubernetes environment. And so the way that we can address this is by, instead of using this tag format, we can use this digest format as our way of locking in exactly what version of a container image that we want to use. So a tag can have multiple digests, and each digest is just an immutable reference to a container image that allows you to control exactly what version of a container image you're going to deploy out to your Kubernetes cluster. So again, this is where kbld really helps. So if I were to run kbld against this YAML file, the output that you'll see here is that it's the exact same object definitions, the service and the deployment, but instead of referencing this container image by a tag, now what we're doing is we have this digest format. So we have this immutable reference to a container image that would be created each time this deployment were created on our cluster. You'll notice that it's not the most human readable thing, but this is the beauty of kbld, right? Is that we can basically still reference our container images using tags, but when it comes time to actually deploy things out to our cluster, we want to have assurance about what's actually running out in our Kubernetes environment. And so by running your manifest through kbld, you're able to very easily lock down what image you exactly want to deploy out to your cluster, but you still gain all the development benefits of using tags as you normally would. So the great thing about this is that these manifests work with Argo CD no problem, right? Because these are just plain old Kubernetes manifests. We're just referencing the container images that we're using in these manifests in a different format. So to actually show creating this using Argo CD, let's go ahead and create an application that will use a kbld generated manifest to create a sample application on our Kubernetes cluster. So I'm going to use the Argo CD CLI here to create an app named kbld example. It's pointed at this GitHub repository that I have, and within this GitHub repository, I have a file called sampleapp1.0.yaml, and this just basically contains a kbld generated manifest that basically has a deployment that uses a digest format as opposed to a tag. And this will be deployed out to the default namespace on our cluster. So I'm going to go ahead and create this here. And let me clear this just so these next commands are a bit clearer. So the next step that I'll want to do here is that I want to use the Argo CD CLI to actually sync out this kbld example application to our cluster. So this will create the deployment that is referencing the image in the digest format. So everything looks like it was synced successfully out to our cluster. So the first thing that we can do is we can take a look at the deployment object and make sure that it's using this digest format. So in order to do that, let's go ahead and run the following command here, and we're going to pipe it through grep just to get the image for the deployment. And so you'll see here that the image that we're referencing is using this digest format as opposed to the 1.0 tag. So from now on, our expectation is that this image reference is immutable, and this will never change regardless of any changes to that 1.0 tag. The thing to note here is that the digest that we saw earlier is actually different from the digest that we just deployed out to our cluster. And this is because kbld, by default, will generate the digest format using whatever the latest digest is of that particular tag. So to just highlight that again, I'm going to go ahead and run kbld against this YAML file again. And you'll see here that the digest is different than what we are deploying out to our cluster. This is because I generated that manifest that we just deployed earlier on in the life of this tag. So there's been a more recent push of this tag, and the digest for it is what kbld has just generated here. So to give some, I guess, idea of what is now actually the latest version of that, that 1.0 tag, we can take a look at the actual source code for the application. And so this is just a simple Go application, and what was actually just pushed as the latest version of this container image contains this really not nice message that the application would display. So our expectation is that what is actually going to be deployed to the cluster is a digest using a different version of this application. So we can go ahead and show what that was and just like remove the edits that I made here. And you'll see that our expectation is that what we're deploying is this application that says, hi there, I love, and then it will take whatever your URL path is and add it to the message. So let's go ahead and make sure that our digest format is really not pulling in the latest changes of that tag. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to start a port forward, and this will basically allow us to view the application that's running in our browser here. So if I were to go ahead and just visit the URL here, you're seeing that the response back is exactly what we expect. It's this nicer message from the application. And so the last thing that we can do here to really assure that what we're deploying to our cluster is not going to change over time based on the fact that the tag has been updated is that we can go ahead and scale down the deployment. And we're doing this to just basically show that once our pods are no longer running in the default namespace, so let's go ahead and just check that. Yep, nothing is currently running there. We're doing this basically to just show that when we scale this back up, the image that is used is using the digest format that we expect. It's not going to pull in those latest changes of the tag. So let's go ahead and scale this back up now. Originally we had 2 replicas for this deployment. And now let's just make sure that the pods are running in the namespace. So everything is now back up and running. So our expectation should be now that if we visit this application again, we should see the exact same message that we saw before, which is that I love you message, as opposed to the I don't love you message. So let's go ahead and come back here and revisit, and we're seeing the exact same thing. Let's just make sure that, just as a sanity check, that it's the exact same thing again. So we visit it again, and here we're getting the exact same message. Because again, we're using this digest format and we have this level of assurance about what is deployed and making sure that it's not going to change as this tag changes throughout the tag's lifetime. So I hope that this video has been helpful in explaining the security benefits of using digests as opposed to tags, and that to show that kbld helps to make it simple to use this format as part of your existing workflows with Argo CD. So thanks again for watching, and I look forward to any feedback and questions that you all have about this video. Thanks again for watching.